Hello, I'm Father James Gardiner, and I'm speaking to you from the Franciscan Monastery of the Holy Land in Washington, D.C. This is the first week of Lent, and the first Sunday of Lent every year we get the temptation account. All three of the synoptics, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, tell the story about how Jesus was led by the Spirit, that's an important point, led by the Spirit into the desert where he was stayed there for 40 days and 40 nights fasting. Now we hear that story probably because of the mentioning of the 40 days and the 40 nights, because it fits in well with the beginning of Lent. But the Gospel says that Jesus, after fasting 40 days, was hungry. And when he came out of the desert, who was there to try to take advantage? The devil. And the devil first takes him, and says to him, well, look at it, command these stones to be made bread. Then he takes him to the parapet of the temple. And on the parapet of the temple, he said, cast yourself off, and angels will take care of you. And then he takes him to a high mountain. He says, all of these things I will give you. We got major temptations, and the temptation to, that temptation to turn the stones into bread, to meet your own legitimate needs first, sometimes at the expense of others. That's a good reminder for us at the beginning of Lent. When he takes him to the top of the parapet of the temple, throw yourself down, show how superior you are to everybody else. Well, that's another thing we might think about at the beginning of Lent. How do we think ourselves better than, superior to other people? And that business of all that, let me show you all the nations of the world, and all this I will give you, is that temptation, that ever-present temptation to power. Started out in the Garden of Eden, eat this, and the devil said, eat this, and you'll know the difference between good and evil. You'll be just like God. That temptation to power, it's there all the time. So as we begin the Lenten season and hear the stories of Jesus being tempted, being led by the Spirit, and then being tempted by the devil, we need to be aware of a couple of things. And number one, the devil waits to see when he has the advantage. Why we keep calling the devil he, I don't know in this day and age, but I mean we do. We call him the devil he. He waits until he thinks he has the advantage, when we're at our weakest, and he tempts us with legitimate needs. The second thing to think about is temptations. They're not as old-fashioned as they sound. Temptations abound. I mean, temptations are, they're all around us all the time. And I think the third thing we need to do is to reacquaint ourselves with sin. Now, don't take me wrong. What I'm thinking of is this, to reacquainting ourselves with sin. Sin is a real possibility, still in these days. Paul VI, many years ago, said the world has lost its sense of sin. We don't think about sin anymore and the damage that sin does. The beginning of Lent, we may want to think about that. I mean, we are capable of sinning, we do sin, but you know what? We have a merciful, loving, forgiving God. So even with Lent, we can celebrate Lent because we know who our God is and how forgiving and loving our God is. I'm Father Jim Gardiner, talking to you from the Franciscan Monastery of the Holy Land. I hope we'll see you during the Lenten season. Remember to be careful of your temptations, and be careful not to reacquaint yourself with sin by sinning. Think about it and have a happy Lent.